How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another DIY video. Today we're going to be working on part 2 of the EBC brake install on my 2018 F30 340i. So I will have a link in the video description below if you're looking for how to do the brake pads on the fronts. Again, the fronts are a lot easier to do than the rears, but I wanted to split these into 2 videos and show you guys what the rears look like because the rears are actually kind of universal depending on the 340 model that you have, versus the fronts, which are more specific to the M Sport model, which is what I have. So again, huge thanks to Keys Motorsports for sending over EBC red stuff, the carbon ceramic pads that we're gonna be installing on today's video. So let me show you guys what we got. All right, so these are the front pads that I've already removed. I've already done an install on the fronts, so the fronts are totally ready to go. We're gonna be working on the rears, but if you're looking for the part number for the rear, here you go. And again, I will have links in the video description below for the fronts and the rears, as well as my install video from the front pads. Again, mine is a 2018 340 F30 model, and I do have the larger M Sport brakes in the front, but the rears are these little puny little things that I believe are not only on the M Sport, but other variations of the F30, but here are the new ones. As you guys can see, they're not super big or anything, and obviously the rears get used a little bit less than the fronts, so I'm anticipating a decent amount of tread left basically on the rear pads, the stock ones. The car's only got about 43,000 miles on it, I believe, so it should have plenty of life left, but we're doing this in order to remove any type of brake dust because, as you guys can tell, my wheels are pretty dirty. And what I like about the red stuff is the fact that they provide kind of the same OEM brake feel. And you'll see here on the box that there are 8 different versions of the EBC. So depending on what you're trying to do with your car, whether it's, daily driving it or going on the track or something in between, kind of a mix, you can choose between one of these 8 variations of the EBC pads. I've been doing red stuff on multiple cars over the years because I do daily drive these, and so it sees no track time. And so for me, I just want basically low dust, and this is going to be the perfect option for me. Additionally, you could bump it up to a yellow if something happens to be out. If Keys Motorsports happens to be out online, you could buy the yellow stuff or even the blue stuff if you want something a little bit more track oriented. But for me, the red stuff is good to go. Additionally, if it happens to be out online, out of stock on Keys Motorsports website, I do recommend giving them a call. They might have something lying around that they could send to you. So what we're gonna do first is I'm gonna start here on the driver's side, and we're gonna lift the car up, pull the wheel off, and I'll show you guys what to do next. I've got the wheel off here back in the rear driver's side. Again, the driver's side and passenger side are pretty much going to be the same in terms of the install process. The only difference is the passenger rear actually has a brake wear sensor, so we don't have to worry about that over here, which is good. But basically what we're going to do first, we need to remove this retaining clip. So if you just take a flathead screwdriver and kind of prop it in here, you should be able to pull this bad boy off. So it's just kind of retained in here. It's kind of annoying actually to get off, and it's pretty much going to fly off just like that. So just kind of prop it in and pop it out. Next thing that we need to do, there are 2 16mm bolts back here. We basically have to remove this part of the caliper in order to get the pads out. So you're not going to be able to see this, but back behind the rotor, there are 2 16mm bolts that we're going to go ahead and unscrew. And if you were to change rotors, you would have to go through the same process anyway, but I'm keeping the stock rotors. We still got plenty of life left on it. The pads actually look okay. They're a little bit worn, but yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and remove those 2 16s, and then the caliper is gonna drop. So I would also recommend putting a box or something here, or getting some zip ties or something to zip tie it up, because you don't want to add any additional strain to the actual brake lines and cause some sort of leak going forward. All right, so now that we've got the retaining clip off, what we're going to do is on the back side there are some guide pins that go through and hold the caliper into place. So there's actually dust covers, one on top and one on bottom, that we need to remove, and then behind there we'll expose the actual guide pin screw, which is going to be an 8mm Allen. So it's going to be hard for me to show you this, but I will show you once I get this off. All right, just to kind of talk through this real quick, you'll see that this is the guide pin plug. So right here, you'll see that I've got my 8mm. So there's one here, and there's one down below here, right about here-ish. And what you need to do is take a little flathead screwdriver, pop those little covers off. It's just a little protection cover, and then you'll stick your 8mm in here and break it free. It's actually super easy to unscrew. So once it gets going, you'll see that down in here, you'll see that guide pin right there, and you can pull it out if you want, or you can kind of just let it sit down in there. So you'll see it's already disconnected, so there's literally nothing holding this on at this point. So I'm just going to leave those guide pins in there, but you'll see that we can actually rock the caliper out, and again, have a box or something here to hold it, just so we don't put any strain on the actual brake line. So you'll see those are the guide pins. You'll see them still sitting in there, but now we can at least let this kind of hang here, just like so. And we've already got this one pad is still stuck here on the rotor. It just kind of pops right out, just like that. And then this one here is popped in still. Do this one-handed. You'll see that it actually has this little metal clip here that holds it into the actual piston right there. So that's how you determine which one is the front pad and which one's the rear pad. And what we're going to do now is you can either go to AutoZone or somewhere and rent a piston retractor, which will actually push this back in. Sometimes you can use your hands and push it in, or you can just do it the way I'm going to do it, which is how I'm going to show you, is just with like a little C-clamp. You can actually use a C-clamp and push that back into its place. Alright, so you guys will see that I'm doing this the cheap way. Instead of going to AutoZone, I've just got the C-clamp here, this metal wooden C-clamp, and I'm just compressing. As much as I turn this, you'll see that it compresses the piston back in, and that's really all I need to do. So super simple, and it stays in just like that. Now this is all the way in, we're good to go. So what I'm going to do is put a little bit of grease down here in these sections where the pad's going to sit, and around this ring here, and we should be good to go. Go ahead and reinstall the new pads. So I'm going to take a little bit of my synthetic caliper grease and brake quiet. You can buy this at any auto parts store or Amazon, and I'm going to just put a little bit down right here where it's going to sit, just to keep things quiet, and then I'm going to do a little bit on this ring here. You want to make sure not to get it on any of the rubber pieces, but since this is where the caliper is going to be sitting, I want to make sure that that's good to go, and then we will go ahead and install our new EBC pads. Alright, so this one is going to go in the rear. Obviously it's got the metal bracket here that compresses into the pad, so what I'm going to do is put a little bit of grease around here as well, just because I know that the piston is going to sit up against that. So I'm just going to wrap it around just like so. And then put a little bit here, and maybe a little bit there. Just don't get it on the front of the pad. And so this is going to compression fit back up inside. Just like so. There we go. So that back pad is in, and then the front one, we're going to go ahead and put this up here and then get this front one in simultaneously. But same thing, I'm going to put a little bit of grease up here, since that's where it's touching, right up in this area. A little bit of grease there, and we should be good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that one in, and then we can go ahead and reassemble this up in here. Just like that, kind of get it into place, and then we're going to go ahead and put those guide pins back in. And you'll see where I put the grease, like here for example, it's touching the metal on metal, so I made sure to put a little bit of grease there, and then down here and over here, just to make sure that, you know, any of the metal on metal that's touching is not going to cause any vibrations or anything like that. So we're in the right spot here. All we need to do is put those guide pins back in. So same thing again from the top here. once you've got things lined up, you take your 8mm Allen and start screwing it in. One on top, one on bottom. And then finally, once you've got those guide pins in and tightened down, you can go ahead and put these little dust caps back on, and they just compression fit on just like that. One on top, one on bottom. Final step is to reinstall the retaining clip. So the easiest way to do this is to come at it this way, because this needs to go on top of this, and this lower part needs to go on top of this. So kind of come at it like this, line up your holes here, and then push on. Just like that. And now the pad is no longer going to move. Everything's nice and secure. We can put the wheel on, and this whole driver's side is complete. We can move on to the passenger side, which is the exact same process, but again, the only difference is the brake wear sensor, which I can show you here in a minute. Here is the passenger rear, which contains the brake wear sensor right here. And so we're going to try to retain this, but again, there's a good chance that you might break this, so I'm going to take the chance to try to retain this one. As long as we're careful, we should be able to get it out no problem. I already have the guide pins already removed, so this is basically loose and just sitting in here. So I'm going to pull this out and then pull the sensor off of the actual pad. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull this out, and it's going to be on the rear pad, just FYI. So you'll see that we don't want to put too much crazy tension on it, but I'm gonna at least be able to hold it like this for a moment and take a flathead screwdriver here and kind of wedge it in here and try to get this out without damaging it. So it's just compressions fitted right in there. So that's the sensor. When you do pull it out, make sure that the actual metal retaining clip is still in there. Sometimes it could get stuck in the actual pad itself down in there. So pull that out. So that's where it was sitting. And then you'll see that, we're putting some strain on here. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull that out and move this out of the way, just to make sure I don't damage it. And then this I'm gonna let sit right here, just like that. And so the process is pretty much the same after that. And that's the only difference. So if you need to order one of those, I would recommend ordering through FCP Euro. All right guys, so that pretty much wraps up the install for the rear EBC ceramic brake pads for the F30. And so again, huge thanks to Keys Motorsports for sending over these parts for me and allowing me to do a install video for you guys. The install is obviously not horribly difficult. I'd say the rear is a little bit longer than the front just because you have to take a little bit more stuff off, but again, super simple. Follow the DIY and you should be fine. Additionally, I will say at this point, now that everything's on, you want to make sure that you pump your brakes a few times before you actually get in and start driving. Just because we've compressed the pistons and all that stuff, you need to make sure that the fluid is recirculating and getting through the lines and all that. So pump the brakes a few times till you have normal brake feel and you should be good. And if you need to reset your maintenance light, you could follow the instructions that are in your owner's manual and you should be good to go. So I wasn't actually due for a brake change, but I just enjoy having the EBCs on the car because of the lack of brake dust and noise. So I'm gonna go ahead and reset my light and just keep track of things on my own. But yeah, so if you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, please let me know in the comments below. Again, if you need a DIY for the front, for the M Sport brakes, I will have a link in the description as well as product info from Keys Motorsports. So otherwise, if you guys have any comments, let me know. Otherwise, we'll see you guys on the next video. Stay tuned, lots more coming for this, the 911, and maybe even the X3 out there. So thanks for watching, appreciate the support. We'll see you on the next video. Take care.